In the last week or two, there's been a lot of massive video game announcements. Up to this point in 2020, things have been kinda slow, and maybe that's a bit of an understatement, but this current global situation has had a severe impact on really all aspects of this video game industry, with many publishers unsure of how to go about delivering news or revealing new games because of just the uncertain times that we're living in. But thankfully, that is starting to kinda change. We're starting to see some of the games and releases that are due out later this year or in 2020, finally, well, we're having some reasons to be excited for the future ahead. Like, one of the most noteworthy reveals was Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2 being remastered. This certainly is a big deal, as this franchise really defined a generation, and even I have fond memories of playing this with my brother when I was younger. But the skateboarding community has been demanding and hopeful for a Skate 4 from Electronic Arts, which honestly just may never come, but this announcement definitely comes at a time that I would consider it's probably perfect, and maybe a whole new generation can understand why many of us love this franchise or really became interested in skateboarding years ago. Besides that, we also have 18 minutes of Ghost of Tsushima gameplay, which just looks absolutely phenomenal. It certainly has that Assassin's Creed meets a feudal Japan feel, and that's perfectly fine in my opinion. Sucker Punch is doing what Ubisoft should have done years ago, but the environment, combat, customization, attention to detail similar to Red Dead 2, how certain mechanics work, like wind being, your source of direction, is just kind of fascinating, and I really am excited to jump into that experience in a few more months. Now, we also had some big next-gen reveals, one for the Xbox Series X, which I guess nobody seemed to realize at Microsoft before the gameplay reveal stream that maybe they should feature actual gameplay for a, gameplay event. Like, the games featured looked solid, but it was misleading, something that Microsoft acknowledged and apologized for after the reveal. But also Ubisoft caught some heat for revealing the next-gen version of Assassin's Creed Valhalla may only run at 30 frames per second. Not very next-gen then at all, at least in terms of performance, but additionally Ubisoft disappointed many with their misleading hyped-up Assassin's Creed Valhalla gameplay reveal, which I will point out there's a difference between in-game cinematic footage and gameplay. Some companies understand this, some do not. Like with Red Dead Redemption 2 from Rockstar Games, the first 3 trailers had in-game cinematic footage, but it was not labeled as gameplay because it's not that. Once Rockstar delivered Red Dead Redemption 2 gameplay, it was actual gameplay, and it was properly labeled as just that. Like I said, some companies understand this, some clearly do not. Now, the other big reveal was a PS5 tech demo which showed off the potential of next-gen consoles, with the Unreal Engine 5 running on the PS5, and it looks stunning. Triangles upon triangles upon triangles. There's so much small details that I appreciate, like the dynamic lighting, the power of the PS5's SSD, and how this technology will be utilized to create some innovative experiences in the years to come. Now, while we did have some huge reveals, there has been the typical chaos, with EA DICE once again angering Battlefield 5 fans, and a journalist/EA partner exposing some of the feelings and things going on behind the scenes during the development of Battlefield 5. We also have an update on Naughty Dog and Sony's shady The Last of Us 2 copyright claims that they've been making, an update on BioWare's Anthem 2.0, and the return of the culling with one of the most disgusting monetization scams that I've ever seen. We're going to be breaking all of that down in a second, but as usual, if you do go on to enjoy this content and want to show your support for more videos like this, please consider hitting that like button, subscribing for more, and turning notifications on so you do not miss out on any new videos. Also, as I recently announced, I'm on Patreon. If you do want to help out the channel further with some financial support and gain some perks like deciding certain upcoming content, become a patron today. As always, links are down in the description below. So we're going to start right away with probably one of the biggest, scummiest acts that I've seen from this video game industry in a while. And I swear, this industry just never surprises me with all of the new pathetic monetization scams that comes to be. And the newest one comes from Xaviant, the developer behind The Culling and a couple of other smaller games that I don't think many of you have actually heard of. But pretty much The Culling, if you don't know the story, years ago, back in 2016, this company was kind of the first ones to jump on the Battle Royale trend before it really was a trend. And the problem with The Culling was that it wasn't a great game, but it was one of the first, and a lot of people liked it. But once PUBG came to be, Fortnite, and so many other battle royales, the culling just kind of became forgotten. Now, I'm not going through the long history of the culling franchise, but I am briefly trying to trend over so you understand what's been going on. But basically, the honest truth is that the culling wasn't a very great game. It was alright, and once better battle royale experiences came to be, they ditched the culling. And what that resulted in was development on the game halting, and then Xaviant, the developer, started working on the culling 2, which was just abysmal. It was shit. And once that came out, nobody cared for it. I think the game peaked at like 200, 250 players, and that forced the developer to go back and try to bring back the original, the culling game, and still even then, people weren't really all that interested in that. And here we are again. The culling has reemerged, and the developer took to Twitter first saying, "The culling is back. TLDR. Servers live Thursday, May 14th. All good. That sounds perfect. Xbox One now, PC later. Big performance enhancements. Not free to play, but if you ever played it, you have it. $5.99 on Xbox Store if you never played it. One free online match per day. Additional tokens." What? This makes absolutely no sense. Like, this is one of the biggest scams that I've ever seen, and I have two theories on this because it doesn't make any sense. So here are my theories. One, this company is about to go under, so they're just throwing this out there and hoping maybe they'll get some additional cash from people who, I guess, appreciate this franchise, if there are any out there. Or two, they're hoping that they get enough outrage, that they get enough eyes on this franchise again, so they can kind of backpedal on all of this and then try to, I guess, get people to like say, "Oh yeah, thanks for doing that, so now I'll play the culling." It really doesn't make any sense, and based on this company's history, I mean, they peaked at the culling back in 2016. They've had some other games that I don't think any of you have heard of. They had Lichdom, Battle Mage in 2014. That was 2014. They had another game that came out last year, Don't Die Minerva, which on Steam has 17 reviews. I would assume that it didn't do very well financially, and for an indie company, I would have to believe that they may be close to going under. So the only thing that makes sense to me is that this is a last-ditch effort to, I guess, make some money or get some interest back into them, but it's pathetic. And it really is, it's hard, it's difficult to even talk about this or take it seriously because it's beyond pathetic. But on YouTube, as you can see, 511 likes, over 24,000 dislikes, and this is the pricing that they were actually trying to do. You have a base price of $5.99, one free daily online match token, you can win tokens by winning matches, and the token packs are 3-pack for 99 cents. It's just so stupid. But there is obviously an online pass, because that wasn't already a mistake years ago when the big name companies tried doing that. You can get a 30-day one for $5.99. This is dumb, and I don't get why this company is even doing this in the first place. All you're doing is tarnishing your name and your reputation. Like I said, I don't know what the financial situation is at Xaviant, but I have to think that it's dire circumstances over there right now to even present something like this. I don't know, but Josh from Xaviant, the director of operations, I don't know what they're doing over there, but I just fire myself for even making this video. He sounded serious. He sounded like he meant it, which is kind of even more frightening. But yeah, let the culling die, please, because this is just it looks pathetic at this point, and it's really disgusting what they're even trying to do. And I really hope that I hope nobody gets bought into this, and I don't think it's going to work. But like I said, I don't understand the strategy at all with this, because it just looks horrible. But speaking of big time video game failures, next we have is Battlefield 5. Now, if you don't know, in recent weeks it was announced by EA DICE that they were ending development on both Star Wars Battlefront 2 and Battlefield 5, and the reactions to that news was drastically different with both of those games. With Star Wars Battlefront 2, most seem happy with what the game turned into post-launch. It went from complete disaster to many pretty much being okay and happy with what it ended up becoming. But with Battlefield 5, it never enjoyed that resurgence. It was a mess at release, and it's still a mess to this day. There was moments of hope with some of the Pacific content, but it just never got there. There was just nonsensical decisions that were made that went against what the community wanted, like time to kill changes, and it just never never seem to recover. Now, some of the top posts on the Battlefield 5 subreddit have just been mocking and really just pointing out some of the huge mistakes that DICE made with this game. With 19,000 upvotes, we have this one saying, if you're going to buy Battlefield 6, don't forget. Don't forget the lack of content in 2 of the 6 chapters. Don't forget the sales after the early access. Remember, this game underachieved in sales, in the words from Electronic Arts. Don't forget the lack of anti-cheat and auto-balance. Don't forget them getting rid of frontlines and domination, nor the limited time rush in the other modes like Firestorm, the Battle Royale mode, and the 5v5 mode. There was also servers that were cut, there was skins that were going for $10, 20 guns that didn't even bother to release, soldier dragging and crash landings features that were touted before launch but just ended up getting canceled, and there's just so much. But I think one of the biggest ones was the lack of huge war moments in World War II. These were things that people were hyping up before launch, like Stalingrad or Normandy. Everybody wants to storm the beaches, but that never came to be. Overall, for a lot of people, Battlefield 5 is just seen as a complete failure. And for a World War II shooter, it failed for what it was supposed to be, to deliver that World War II experience. A lot of people from the get-go just did not understand what EA DICE was trying to go for with this game, and even to this day I still don't understand the marketing or really any of the decisions made. This is just a mess that will never recover. We'll have to wait to see if this does have an impact on, say, Battlefield 6, but I think it's safe to assume that there's going to be a lot of skepticism from the community for really anything else coming from EA DICE in the future ahead. It's kind of how this AAA games industry works nowadays, and I really hope that EA DICE takes note of a lot of the mistakes that they made, but the fact that they didn't learn from them with Battlefield 5 is deeply concerning, and I guess we'll just have to wait to see for that. But as I mentioned earlier, in recent weeks they announced that they're moving on from Battlefield 5 and they're concentrating on the next Battlefield experience, but they also made a big content announcement in recent days which just comes off as, well, spitting in players' faces. It was a new elite soldier, Steve Fisher, which is supposed to be this really cool, World War II soldier, but it looks dumb. I think this kind of puts into perfect perspective of EA DICE just not understanding their player base at all. Even before release, we saw that with some of the dumb statements that came from the executives that were working on this. But yeah, concentrating on elite soldiers and not, enjoyable maps like Stalingrad or, iconic World War II content, but making dumb soldiers like this, it just shows you that they really do not understand what they were doing with this game. It's kind of deeply concerning for the future, but yeah, this has been met to a lot of people downvoting this video, this announcement of this content. Battlefield 5 Elite Steve Fisher, 5,000 likes and over 28,000 dislikes. And some of the top comments include, anyone remember those Battlefield days where you were just another soldier and not one of those wannabe action heroes with names and backstories? I'm the guy that makes every shot count. The level of cringe is on a whole new level. Good job, DICE. And yeah, this is just a mistake, but that kind of sums up the whole Battlefield 5 experience. But if you actually, again, head to the Battlefield 5 subreddit, some of the top responses are, there's something. My reaction after watching Steve Fisher's trailer, yeah, people, they're not moved by this. And then there was also this note, which isn't anything to do with the Steve Fisher, but more of some of the responses coming from DICE. Actual words from a DICE dev, why do people data mine? That's on the same level as cheating. Also DICE, not releasing any news, going radio silence for weeks on end for the entire lifespan of this game and releasing barely any content, to the game getting shocked when someone data mines possible content to keep the player base even remotely interested in the game. Now, if you don't know what this user is actually talking about, it seems like somebody who works for EA said dating mining should be banned, and this led to a Battlefield 5 developer or Battlefield developer responding saying, the person screaming yay today about dating mining probably doesn't understand that in the long run, these actions have consequences. Every studio faces such problems, then needs to allocate resources towards fixing those problems instead of using said resources somewhere else. Then he has that little sad smiley face. It's really the same with cheating. Comparing data mining to cheating. Interesting. If people could just behave themselves, the industry wouldn't need to spend billions on trying to reduce it. People sharing data mined content are in my mind no different than people advertising cheats. Personally, I don't see the connection, but this guy's you can go for it. And somebody also pointed out, I'm rather disappointed to read this. The community made its issues with serious lack of content clear, and data mined info didn't overhype people. It just barely kept them interested. To compare people acting as surrogate sustainers for the community to cheaters, rude in my opinion. And then this developer responded, this is my general view with no relations to Battlefield. A lack of content of game has nothing to do with the industry-wide topic of data mining. Read this as written by developer and player, not as stated by DICE. I get he's trying to downplay this. On the topic of comparison between spreading information of cheats versus spreading information of data, at the end of the day, people and their experience and work gets hurt. There's no way of denying it. No matter how good the intention, damage will be done. Same goes for leaks, by the way. Which, that is what it is. I can completely understand the other perspective, where the secrecy of this video game industry is kind of a problem. If you look at the other aspects of this entertainment industry, like movies, it's a lot more, I guess they're a lot more open with how movies are made. But this video game industry, a little too secretive, and a lot of times when games have been data mined, there's been a lot of shady business found, so I don't know, there's a different point of view that needs to be pointed out on this topic, and I could go on and on about that. But I do want to go over this take coming from a German journalist and EA game changer about Battlefield 5's downfall. Fabian Sigismund, I probably said that wrong, he uploaded a video a few days ago giving insight into Battlefield 5's development and confirming a few points most of us already suspected. He said, well, he worked at the biggest German games magazine, GameStar. I've mentioned them quite a few times in past videos. He's basically written every preview for every Battlefield installment there is while visiting DICE very frequently. To do this, he is known to be a friend of the family. Secondly, he has been an EA game changer and is thus in contact with developers and high-ups at DICE and EA, who ask him about his opinion on the game from time to time. And this person does speak German, so they translated some of the top points that this journalist actually made. And it's interesting hearing this perspective, and it does confirm some of the things that a lot of us suspected. Battlefield 5's early ending was to be expected, and again, this game financially did not do that well. It didn't have the monetization that it probably wanted, or DICE wanted, because of the whole Star Wars Battlefront 2 disaster, so that kind of ruined the potential for the future already, so that's not too surprising. They're obviously going to move away from that and move on to the next potential moneymaker. He was quite enthusiastic when DICE provided him with a preview version, emphasizing that going back to Wake Island will be phenomenal. Unfortunately, DICE already told him back then that they were planning to drip feed the content and that there will be no famous maps on launch, a huge mistake. I still don't understand that. He was telling them to be precise with their content plan, otherwise people will be disappointed. DICE underlined that they are aware of this and will stick to their roadmaps no matter the cost. Oh boy. Compared to previous installments, developers were lacking excitement for their own game. He uses the word soulless and corporate to describe the employees' demeanor at the launch event. And yeah, that's very true. I mean, if the only reason why you're getting excited, one of the top reasons, is just to mock Battlefield fans. You remember that? Everyone's Battlefield. Oh boy. I still don't, I just don't get this game. I do not get a lot of the decisions. But let's continue. DICE was indeed very sulky on receiving negative feedback for their initial trailer, you don't say. From the beginning, lacking tech was the common explanation for not improving the assignment system. DICE thought that the combination of a campaign multiplayer and battle royale was the selling point of the game. Well, they were wrong. He does not understand the time to kill changes and the lack of a CTE. The game changers visited DICE for the Pacific update, where they were told about the time to kill changes. DICE allowed no argument regarding these changes. Another mistake. Strategic decisions have been puzzling and overly hasty from the start. Example, changing customization several times behind the scenes. Marketing budgets were frequently decreased as Electronic Arts lost faith in the product relatively early, and DICE had problems understanding what the community wanted when it comes to cosmetics. Well, they wanted World War II cosmetics. It's not very difficult to figure that one out, but I guess that was a problem. So in summary, what this journalist kind of exposes is a lot of, yes, what we pretty much suspected, but it's nice to have some confirmation of some of the feelings and things that were going on behind the scenes. But yeah, Battlefield 5 is just, I really hope they get it right with Battlefield 6, but I'll be honest, like many, I'm going to be extremely skeptical moving forward, especially with some of the monetization things that are still going on at the company that I feel could be implemented in future games. Star Wars Battlefront 2 was just the beginning. I think people need to understand that, but maybe that's a conversation, again, for another day. Now, we next move on to the Last of Us 2 mess situation. As most of you know, the game leaked. Pretty much the entire game is leaked, a lot of the big moments, and what Sony has been trying to do is silence a lot of the leaks. And I understand them taking down videos of these leaks, but going after people just talking about it is a massive problem. And this has resulted in a lot of false copyright claims, and what Sony is trying to do is silence any of the criticism and all the talk about this. But we have this article coming from Reclaim the Net. This is actually a good thing, but only kinda. Commentators get small win after Sony Naughty Dog burned through any remaining goodwill with copyright system abuse. Naughty Dog and Sony have been criticized heavily for the last few weeks for their copyright system abuse surrounding The Last of Us Part 2 leaks, while the two companies are trying to take down videos or other media that simply talk about the recent leaks. Some creators are still emerging victorious despite the company's efforts. So yes, just talking about this game, just mentioning the leaks have resulted in false copyright claims because Sony really does not want people talking about this. They don't want attention to be on these leaks before release because yes, it will contribute to people skipping this experience and it will lose Sony money, which they do not want to see happening. So with them abusing copyright systems, whether that be YouTube or Twitter, that's a route that they're going to be taking, and they're still doing it right now. But as this article continues, Sony wasn't even targeting those videos that contained any visual material from the leaked cutscenes of the upcoming The Last of Us sequel. They were striking and flagging videos that were just talking about the leaks. More shockingly, another YouTuber was struck by Sony with a copyright notice for a video in which she just discussed Sony's copyright system abuses. Jade, she simply read an article about this abuse and she was pretty much crushed with a copyright strike because, again, it looks like Sony or these people aren't actually reviewing these videos, they're just hitting copyright claim. And again, because YouTube's system's so broke, these companies do not face consequences for these actions. Now, this article continues, the overreach when it comes to striking and removing videos has led to many believing that Sony and Naughty Dog are no longer just trying to prevent leaks from spreading about the upcoming game, they're actively trying to suppress any criticism leveled against them. The leaks of The Last of Us 2 are revealed in unpopular narrative for some. At least some people are unhappy with the agenda and some of the ways that Naughty Dog has gone about the story. That's obvious if you've been on the internet, that's not a spoiler. Some people are unhappy with the direction, and this is why a lot of people believe that Naughty Dog is going on about this, why they're taking these videos down, because they just don't want this criticism getting out or being widespread. Some are now starting to believe that Sony and Naughty Dog want to reduce animosity towards the game in an attempt to still ensure strong sales and pre-orders, pretty much what I just said. But as mentioned above, there are some cases where creators who were unfairly targeted with copyright claims got their content restored. So yes, there are some wins out of this, but it's few and far between right now. While at least some of these wrongful claims are eventually getting reversed, it's not until after Sony has already caused trouble for the creators, affecting their channels, wasting their time, and putting their livelihoods at risk. It's clear that Sony and Naughty Dog are in no way interested in restoring any trust with the community. Now, the more concerning part of this story is the fact that nobody is reporting about this. No video game outlets. You know how many times over the years I've heard about Kotaku and Bethesda's dispute and how pretty much Kotaku has been blacklisted by Bethesda, but they won't even cover this abuse. Polygon, GameSpot, IGN, I don't get this at all. Why nobody's even talking about this. But Reclaim the Net points out Sony's abuse of DMCA reporting systems against commentators and social media users is met with media silence. And yes, most of the mainstream video game news websites have been pretty much silent about one of the largest corporations in the gaming industry, Sony, continuing to abuse the Digital Millennium Copyright Act to censor content discussing the April 27th The Last of Us 2 leaks. Ever since the leaks hit the internet, videos, memes, and all manner of other online posts that reference them have been taken down in response to copyright claims from Sony and Muso TNT Ltd, the copyright agent representing Sony. These companies always have outside outside private firms that help out with stuff like this. Some of the content that has been taken down, again, this just goes back to the point that it's just people talking about it. They're not including footage, they're not including screenshots, they're just talking about what has happened. And even right now, other creators are being hit with more false copyright claims. It's not slowing down, and as one of the lawyers that I mentioned before, Hogue Law, pointed out on Twitter, Sony's strategy for dealing with discussion of The Last of Us leaks is beginning to take shape. They may not want to go to court, but they definitely want some silence. And that's very much true. Again, Hogue Law is a lawyer, he's somebody who's talked a lot about the actions in this video game industry. I've cited him multiple times on this channel, and it really is just disappointing with what Sony has been doing with this whole situation, and it really just it puts The Last of Us 2 in a negative spotlight, and I really just don't understand any of this. Like, all these video game companies, they just always do the nonsensical decisions, but I mean, I guess that's one way to draw more negative attention and just make people even more angry at Naughty Dog and Sony. And the fact that video game outlets, gaming outlets aren't even discussing this it's deeply concerning. But to the final update of today, we're going to talk about BioWare's Anthem. Yes, you heard me right. Which we actually got an update from the company, and it looks like somebody else is now taking over BioWare Austin. Christian, he is the new studio director for the BioWare Austin office that is leading production of what they're exploring next for Anthem, which I do wonder if his emphasis on next means that Anthem 2.0 will just be called Anthem Next, which maybe that will make some sense. But I think the most interesting part of this article, or this piece from this developer, is the fact that this ain't coming anytime soon. Like, I was thinking maybe this will be ready by fall of 2020, but this sounds like this is going to take a while, maybe 2021. But here are some of the most notable parts of this article. It says, the Anthem incubation team is kicked off, and we are starting to validate our design hypothesis. Incubation is a term we use internally. It essentially means we are going back and experimenting, prototyping to improve on the areas that we believe we fell short, and to leverage everything that you love about Anthem. We are a small team, about 30-ish, earning our way forward as we set out to hit our first major milestone goals. Spoiler, this is going to be a long process. And yes, the team is small, but the whole point of this is to take our time and go back to the drawing board, and a small team gives us the agility a larger one cannot afford. And then BioWare Austin studio director next just pretty much says he wants to be open about the process, so it sounds like we're going to be seeing more updates in the coming months to be. But yeah, it sounds like Anthem 2.0 is not coming anytime soon, and I've been saying this for a while, but I really just don't know if there's going to be interest to return to this experience, but only time will tell, and I really don't know how they're even going to go about this. Is this going to be a free update, or is this going to be like some sort of sequel? There's a lot of uncertainty in the air, but I guess it's good that BioWare is going to try to make sure that they get this game right, but this was one of the big failures of 2019, and with a big update like this, if it is free, I just wonder, how do they monetize this moving forward? Many questions remain, and maybe those will be answered in the months ahead, but yeah, I really don't know what to expect out of BioWare with Anthem 2.0, or really anything else coming from this company in the future. As we've discussed in some of the exposés that have been written about BioWare's development of Anthem, Mass Effect Andromeda, and Dragon Age Inquisition, it seems like the company has some serious problems that have not been addressed, but maybe they'll be addressed before this company just completely falls apart. But there have been rumors and reports of a Mass Effect trilogy remaster on the way, so maybe that'll inspire some hope, maybe. Anyway, to wrap all of this up, just another day in this video game industry, I guess that's the best way to put it. But yeah, typical Electronic Arts doing nonsensical decisions, and probably one of the biggest, most greediest things I've ever seen coming from The Calling, which is a game that probably should have just died once it faltered back in 2016. To end this video on a more positive note, what I can say is that fun times are ahead. We have some massive, exciting releases coming, like Ghost of Tsushima and the next generation of consoles, which will inspire, really, hopefully, some new innovative games in the years to come. Obviously, it's not going to be immediate at release, but I really am excited to see what is developed for these next-gen consoles, because there's going to be probably a huge contrast from this generation that we're on right now to the next generation. So I'm excited, I really am. But let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. But thank you for watching. Make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy this video, or if you found any informative value, and make sure to follow my other social media accounts for updates on new videos. Links are always down the description below. I'm most active on Twitter, giving opinions on news that I do not always get into video form, so do make sure to follow me over there. Also check out my Discord for all sorts of discussion on games, games. And again, thank you for joining, consider subscribing for more videos like this, and I'll see you later.